when I raise my head, you almost get up, right? Why is just roaring at the back there? Okay, y'all ready? Good morning. Let me welcome you to our weekly press conference, the PPP weekly press conference. With me here this morning is our General Secretary, Comrade Clement Ruhi. He'll be reading two statements, after which we'll be taking questions on the statement, and after that, the General Secretary might want to answer other questions. GS, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. We have two statements this morning. The first one goes as follows. The People's Progressive Party finds amusing the recent tantrums displayed by David Granger concerning the current state of the country's infrastructure. At the recent APNU press conference, where he was obviously sailing, Granger referred to poor infrastructure and how roads, bridges, stellings, canals, and other amenities have degenerated, end of quote. Under the People's Progressive Party, the PPP cannot help but insist that Granger continues to be a stranger to the truth, and we can only wonder in which country he's really living. This soldier / historian turned politician has obviously contracted amnesia, resulting in his ability to recall the state of the country's infrastructure, which his PNC regime bequeaths to the people of Guyana. Granger needs to be reminded about the trail of destruction and degradation which occurred during the PNC dictatorship. The People's Progressive Party finds it necessary to jolt Granger's memory, especially concerning the PNC's track record, and to remind him about how far we have come as a nation as regards physical and social infrastructure development. The PPP finds it necessary to remind Mr. Granger about the dilapidated physical infrastructure and social amenities which his party presided over during his 28 years in government. It is to be recalled that the 38.25 miles of the Essequibo Coast Road took a traveler 3.5 hours to traverse, while having to navigate ponds, mini hills, and valleys, dead sand trenches, broken bridges, and even vegetation in the middle of the road. This is what residents of and visitors to the Essequibo Coast had to endure for years. Moreover, the half-mile road stretching from the Bank of Guyana to the Pegasus Hotel was in such a deplorable state that it took half an hour to traverse that relatively short distance. To add insult to injury, the Georgetown-Temeri Road was another pain to endure and navigate. Further, potable water through taps at floor level was a dream of the majority of Guyanese, from the city to the towns and villages. The sewage and water supply system were all destroyed and never rehabilitated. Village dams, feeder roads, farm-to-market roads, and cokers were never maintained. Many fell into a state of disrepair and neglect. The country's drainage and irrigation had completely collapsed, and agricultural production was at its nadir when the people of Guyana booted out the PNC from government in free and fair elections of 1992. If we are to lend the proverbial ear to Granger's claim, then we must conclude that it was the PNC dictatorship that was the cause of the destruction of our country's social and physical infrastructure. Time to rebuild was the theme under which the PPPC started to build Guyana's social and physical infrastructure. The PPPC is proud of the work that successive administrations have done, and without boasting about it. In this regard, 1,200 schools have been built or rebuilt. hundreds of miles of roads have been built in villages all around the country. Bridges that will stand for the long term have been built from Supernam to Charity, from Rosignol to Georgetown, and from Georgetown to Mary. Under the PNC, less than 20,000 vehicles use our roadways. Today, there are over 150,000 vehicles using the roadways of our country. The Ogle International Airport and the Berbice River Bridge are testimonies to what public-private partnerships can accomplish in infrastructure development under the PVPC administration. The PVP acknowledges that as a nation, we must look to the future and plan to ensure that what we build is maintained and that we continue with our expansion programs. Faced with the challenges such as APNU AFC budget cuts, resulting in the denial of funds for airstrips, the expansion of the CGIA International Airport, the Milo Falls Road and Hydro Project, as well as the expansion of electricity and internet connectivity, the PVPC urges the government to press ahead with the nation's interests for the benefit of all Guyanese. The next statement reads as follows. The People's Progressive Party is saddened that the good name which the Guyana Trade Unions Congress once enjoyed has again been sullied as a result of Lincoln Lois's puerile political outbursts. A few weeks ago, the PPP expressed the view that the Guyana Trade Unions Congress is no longer a voice of the workers. In fact, it has been hijacked by a selfish few who, regrettably, have transformed that body into a political forum for grandstanding. In the last few weeks, we have witnessed the morphing of the GTUC into a puppet of its own General Secretary in pursuit of its political and personal agenda. The statements emanating from Mr. Lois's purportedly on behalf of the GTUC confirms the narrow, selfish political agenda which the organization is pursuing. Mr. Lois, in his recent avowals, condemned the National Assembly because of the motion on the Critchlow Labour College, which adopted unanimously. Embarked on a confrontational rather than a negotiated course with the bauxite company Rusal, rudely and unreasonably intruded into the privacy of former President Bharat Jagdeo. It is to be noted that none of Lois's fulminations has anything to do with workers' representation. Rather, they are solely matters that advances his personal political agenda. It is sad to note that sections of the media make it their business to paint a rosy picture of Lois under the guise of facilitating the GTUC, while at the same time gives wide publicity to his attacks against the government and the ruling PPPC. The PPP notes that as regards the workers at Rusal and the issue over the collective agreement with the company, this matter has been engaging the attention of the Ministry of Labour. The Ministry has sought for a number of years to bring the parties together with a view to arriving at a consensual conclusion. While engaging in negotiations, Mr. Lois would regularly and publicly accuse government officials of being racial. He went as far as to lodge an official complaint with the Ethnic Relations Commission. The complaint was investigated and allegations found to be without merit. After exercising considerable patience, arbitration was imposed by the Ministry of Labor. Rusal went to the courts and challenged the decision. Resort to the courts is a redress open to anyone. Lois's agenda is not reflective of workers' interests. Otherwise, he would have awaited the rulings of the court instead of lashing out at the company and attacking all and sundry. Lois's swift condemnation and failure to accept the unanimously agreed motion by the National Assembly is another indication of the personal agenda rather than workers' interests. One would have thought that the TUC would have brought its executives together, consult with whatever membership it has, and engage its allies, namely the APNU and AFC, as a minimum before going public with such a position. The PPP wishes to remind Guyanese that while Mr. Lois boasts that he speaks on behalf of organized labor and is famous for citing Article 13 of the Constitution regarding meaningful consultation and hypocritically chanting the mantra of good governance, he is not prepared to walk the walk. This is but a far cry from how a trade unionist should be working in the interests of the workers rather in pursuance of personal egos bigger than life. Quite recently, Mr. Lewis rudely invaded the privacy of former President Jack Dew. The PPP is of the view that former President Jack Dew is not only entitled to his privacy, but also to his benefits as a former president. These benefits include medical expenses. The PPP upholds the rights, benefits, and entitlements of all workers in our country and is vehemently opposed to any attempt to diminish the entitlements of workers. Lois's attack on President Jack Dew's medical treatment entitlement has nothing to do with representation of workers. Rather, it is nothing but a vain attempt to grab the news headlines and advance his personal political agenda. The Kaicho News has served Lois's ego well. That newspaper gave Lois's attack on former President Jack Dew almost full-page coverage. As regards the PPP's position on Lois's political agenda, we wish to alert Guyanese to the threats which Mr. Lois had been making should the CFATF compliant anti-money laundering bill be passed in the National Assembly. This is clearly another manifestation of Lois's political extremism and his anarchist predisposition, a serious danger to the maintenance of peace and good order in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes. Now, we're looking for questioning. I'll try to finish it for you.
If no one has any question on the statement, I have something on the second. Right now, GS, the APNU, they're saying that the budget should not have been presented at this time because there are more pressing issues, namely the anti-money laundering bill to be dealt with. Do you care to respond?
Where did they say that?
The last question on that.
I didn't see that statement. I haven't seen that statement. The budget had to be presented within a constitutional time frame. So if the APNU feels that this is not the time to present it, I think they are wandering in the woods, so to speak. Because I think the Minister of Finance is operating within the meaning of the law. And if it is not presented now, then when? I think we should ask them that question. Other pressing issues, what could be more pressing than a budget for the nation? Excuse me?
The anti-money laundering bill, given its implications.
I would say both are pressing. Both are pressing issues. But the budget time has come, and we have to deal with that. I didn't know that they're interested in advancing the anti-money laundering bill a priori to the budget. Did they say that? Did they say that we prepare to fast track the anti-money laundering bill and to have it dealt with a priori to the budget?
No, the PPP has been blamed for delaying the bill.
Well, the PPP can be blamed for anything by the APNU. That's their business to blame. But we are not engaging in any blame game. We are saying that as a government, we have a budget to present within the meaning of the law, and that is what is happening. End of story.
Mr. Roby, good morning. Gordon Mosley, News Source. Sir, over the weekend leading into late last week, there was a story in the Guyana Chronicle, the state newspaper, that said that Mr. Jagdeo, based on polls that no one appears to be claiming, that Mr. Jagdeo is the best candidate to lead this party into the next elections. There is some concern that that may be a move to undermine the Ramatar presidency. Is the party at all concerned about elements within the state media, using the state media to undermine the president of Guyana?
Well, the PPP is fully behind President Ramatar. You know, PPP has always stood behind President Ramatar and remains behind President Ramatar. The question of the state media and the interaction with the office of the president, I would believe that's a housekeeping matter that will have to be dealt with at that level. But insofar as undermining of the Ramatar presidency is concerned, PPP stands full square behind President Ramatar.
Was the party concerned at all when it began seeing that story that here is one former president who is not eligible to run again? His friend's newspaper, the Guyana Times, carried the exact story. And the reports that came from the office of the president.
We didn't pay attention to that. We remain focused. We didn't pay attention to that. We remain focused. And our focus is the anti-money laundering bill, the budget, and issues pertaining to our party gearing itself for any electoral eventuality. That's our focus. We're not going to be distracted.
If there are snap elections called, there's
Yeah.
been this talk up in the air, both all the parties have been talking about it. For the PPP, who would be the best candidate at this time?
Well, at that point in time, the party will have to sit down and determine that.
Do you think the president is the best candidate right now if we were to get elections in a few months?
If I think he's the best candidate,
If you're
Why
fully
not?
behind him.
why not? Why not? That's a matter that the party leadership will decide. So, at this point in time, I think he's doing a pretty good job. And he's represented the country well overseas and domestically as well. So the PPP stands full square behind President Ramatar.
And the party will not in any way try to push any legislation that could change the law that would allow a third term for Mr. Jagdeo.
I think I heard President Jagdeo announce quite some time ago that he's not interested.
But his best friend saying he might be interested.
He what?
His best friend in the newspaper.
Well, you know, our party policy is not determined by what best friends say. You know, best friends can say anything. You know, that's quite okay. I'm not seeking to besmirch anyone here, but, you know, I think President Jagdeo quite some time ago announced that he's not interested. Yeah.
The report they said that it came from OP. Would OP be the
What
poll?
is that?
The poll.
What poll?
The poll that said that he would be the best candidate. That's what they're claiming. It was a poll that was done by the AFC and the APNU. They got hold of this poll.
I don't know about any poll.
You didn't read the story?
I don't know about any poll.
Well, that's
Reading
the
a
point.
story is different from a poll.
Well, that's kind of the
The
point.
story is about the poll, right?
Yes.
Well, I don't know about any poll.
So then, how would they write?
So
a
there's no
story?
story.
if there's no poll?
There is no story as far as I'm concerned.
So you're
I-
questioning that story too?
What
The
story?
authenticity of the poll story.
No, I am saying I don't know about any poll, and it follows the same thing. I don't know about any poll. I don't know about any story. I'm just being consistent.
Has the PPP conducted any in-house polls to
No.
determine?
The
who
only
might
in
be-
the last, if you might want to call it,
Sir,
exercise of a similar nature that we conducted was at our last party congress, when the delegates and observers went to the polls at the congress and elected the leadership of the central committee. Since then, we haven't had any other exercise. And then later on, 2 weeks or about a month after, we had the election of the central committee. Sorry, of the executive committee of the party.
are you concerned, sir, that, that's what I'm trying to get. Clearly, if you have a government that's a PPP government in place,
Mm.
and there are persons from this PPP government pushing this job deal to return,
Mm.
through the press, through the state media, the front page of the Chronicle.
Mm.
The Chronicle is only controlled by the state. Wouldn't the party be concerned that there may be some mischief afoot by some in your own party?
Individuals can push whatever they want to push. The PPP is not pushing anything except its support for President Ramatar.
Any other question?
Yes, GS, we've seen a number of general secretaries of the party moved on to become president. How do you fancy your chances?
My smile is an indication of my position.
Yeah.
No, my smile is an indication of my position. Read my lips.
I see the
Wait, listen. Sir, if you could just make a beeline quickly in your capacity as Home Affairs Minister, if that's okay. And last week, there was this case thrown out for lack of evidence. And there's talk about even the way the man who was set free because witnesses did not turn up, even the way he left the courthouse on a motorcycle just riding out to his freedom, whatever. Sir, as Home Affairs Minister, are you concerned at all when you see these cases, police witnesses not turning up, even including policemen, and witnesses just not showing up? And what would you say to the police force in terms of the DPP in terms of getting that system fixed?
Well, I've seen the public outcry on this matter, and I've seen some press reports on it. I'm not so sure about the extent to which the press reports reflect the public outcry, but I know that there are persons out there who are watching this matter very carefully, who have been watching it before it was dismissed by the learned magistrate, and then continue to watch it with great interest. So, I tend to pay very close attention to what the public say on matters such as this. And obviously, if there is a lot of public interest in it, the Ministry of Home Affairs has to pay attention to that. And that is precisely what we're doing at this point.
Any advice you would give to the police in relation to these matters that witnesses are just disappearing, not turning up at all?
Whatever advice I would give to the police would be private, not public.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
Any other? If not, thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks a lot. The party didn't say anything about this back.
Yeah. Yeah, I said something. I said something on your good friend, Mr. Dennis Brown. But nobody picked it up. Apparently the journalists don't pick up news from them or how
No, it's in the other, it's in the other press.
It's in the other papers.